The following lesson is linked to Learning Outcome 4, Language. It addresses the assessment standard that requires learners to identify and explain the meanings of words and use them correctly in a range of texts. Learners should also be able to recognize how languages borrow words from one another.
Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to our first lesson in this series on vocabulary. In this series, we're going to learn some of the customs and origins of the English language. We're going to begin this lesson by asking some interesting questions. How useful is the average person's vocabulary, and how many words does the average person know? Well, here are some interesting statistics. The average 5-year-old knows 5,000 words. The average 12-year-old knows 12,000 words. The average educated person knows 15,000 words. So that raises the next question. When is your vocabulary big enough? You could argue that if you stopped learning new words at the age of 5, you'd still know enough words to get by. You'd be able to have simple conversations and express your needs. The average newspaper uses a vocabulary of about 12,000 words, which is the same number of words that the average 12-year-old knows. So you could argue that knowing 12,000 words is more than enough for you to be able to read, speak, listen, and understand in most situations. You would definitely aim to know at least 12,000 words if you want to consider yourself an effective user of English. However, here's another interesting fact. Shakespeare had a vocabulary of about 30,000 words. Shakespeare is arguably the best author ever to have written in the English language. He was able to express himself in unique and exciting ways because he knew so many words. So obviously, the more words you know, the more effectively you'll be able to communicate. That's what this series of lessons is all about, improving your vocabulary and convincing you that learning new words is a good way of improving your English. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain where English comes from and the effect that this has had on modern English, define etymology, and determine the origins of words. Today, English is spoken by more people than any other language, and English is also the most popular language to learn as a second language. But English wasn't always as popular as it is now, so that raises the next question. Where does English come from? Nearly 2,000 years ago, when Julius Caesar arrived in Britain, English didn't exist. 500 years later, a language called English was spoken by the same number of people as who now speak Cherokee, so that's not very many at all. But still, the language continued to grow by borrowing words from French, Latin, German, and Greek, and modifying old Anglo-Saxon words. So that by Shakespeare's time, between 5 and 7 million people were speaking English. So even though the number of speakers had expanded and the language had increased, English still wasn't spoken beyond Britain. Then colonization began. As British soldiers, missionaries, and expeditions left Britain, they carried with them supplies and provisions, and also the English language. Today, English is spoken by over 750 million people, and every one of those people is influenced by the original version of English that was spoken by a few thousand people. Now that we have a rough idea of where English comes from, let's have a look at how the origins of these words have affected their modern-day usage and their etymology. What is etymology? Etymology is the study of the origins of words. If you look in a dictionary, the etymology of a word is often given in square brackets at the end of an entry. Here is an example. Cauliflower, noun, cabbage with large white flower head. French, chou-fleur, floured cabbage. In this definition, the letter F stands for French. In this case, the word cauliflower comes from the French word that means floured cabbage. There is a list of these abbreviations in all dictionaries. If you didn't know what a cauliflower was, the French translation would give you quite a good idea of what it is. Notice how the French words are written in italics. Here's an exam tip. In English tests or exams, you're often given a dictionary extract and you're asked to give the etymology of a word. If you're asked a question like this, look for the abbreviation in square brackets and you'll be able to work it out. But that isn't the only time where knowing the etymology of a word comes in handy. Why is it important to know the etymology of a word? Well, apart from being fascinating, it's worth knowing the origins of words, as this will help you to improve your vocabulary. How does this work? Well, if you know the root word, it's easy to work out what other words that are derived or taken from this word mean. Here's an example. Amicus is the Latin word for friend. If you know that, it's quite easy to work out that amiable means having a friendly temperament and amicable means showing friendly feelings. It is not even necessary to know what the foreign word means. Simply look at the new word and think, is it similar to any word you already know? Here's another example. If you know that a bait means to end something, you could work out that an abattoir is a slaughterhouse, a place where animals come to their end. Just as in the first example, both of these words come from the same root word. In this case, abattre, a French word meaning to beat down. If you are trying to learn new words, try to learn them in groups that share the same common root word. This will help you to master more words more quickly. Here's another example. Derma is a Greek word meaning skin. The epidermis is an outer layer of skin. A hypodermic needle is a needle that goes under the skin. So now what about a dermatologist? A dermatologist is a type of doctor, but what type of doctor? If you already know that the other words that have derma in them all have something to do with skin, it's quite easy to work out that a dermatologist is a skin doctor. Here's another example. Side, Latin, kill, killer. Suicide, kill yourself. Genocide, killing of a nation. The suffix side means kill or killer in Latin. If you commit suicide, you kill yourself. Genocide is the deliberate killing of a nation. Once you've got the pattern, it'll be easy for you to work out what an insecticide is. Knowing where words come from is useful also because it helps you to see how they are pronounced. This is because words that are borrowed from other languages often retain their original pronunciation. Here are some examples. Ballet. Ballet is French in origin, which is why we don't pronounce the T when we say it. Debt. Debt comes from the Latin word debitum, which is why it has a B in it, even if you don't say it. Apostrophe. This is a Greek word that is also pronounced differently from how it is spelt. If you were to spell it like you say it, the word would end with the letters F-E-E, which isn't how it's spelt. If you know where words come from, you'll also be able to work out their plural form. In English, most words take an S when forming a plural. So the plural of hat is hats, and the plural of car is cars. but foreign words are often trickier. One cactus, many cacti. One phenomenon, many phenomena. Here cactus comes from Greek and phenomenon comes from Latin. These plural forms use the plural rules of other languages. Knowing the etymology of words will also help you to work out some of English's little mysteries. Have you ever wondered why it's not polite to say you're having a pig sandwich for lunch? This is because the names of food types come from French, whereas the names of animals come from English. You can go to a farmyard and see a pig, a sheep, and a cow. But when you eat these animals, you refer to pork, mutton, and beef. This came about as a result of class divisions in the Middle Ages. English names were used by the people tending the flocks in the fields, whilst the French names were used by the nobility who were actually eating the animals. But English doesn't just steal words from other languages, it loans some of its words out as well. Here are some examples. In France, you can read le best-seller while eating le sandwich. In Germany, you may leave the teenager with the babysitter so that you can drink the cocktail. I'm sure that when you're speaking another language, you occasionally slip in the odd English word. And we all use words from other languages occasionally when speaking English. This is known as code mixing, and we will talk about it more in the extension to this lesson. If words from another language are slipped in by lots of people over a long period of time, they become loanwords and eventually they form part of the language. You'll see in the task that lots of words that you might think are English have actually been borrowed from other languages. For today's task, you will need to use a dictionary. Look up each of the following words and determine its etymology. Remember, this is the origin of the word that is given in square brackets at the end of the dictionary entry. The words are kiosk, marmalade, schlep, loiter, ketchup, tycoon, sauna, and taboo. I hope that you find the task interesting and that it encourages you to look up the origins of other words. Remember, knowing the origins of words will help you to improve your vocabulary. Goodbye.